Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get started. Please join in welcoming Kent Emerson, President of the Empire Club of Canada, to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. From the Arcadian Court in downtown Toronto, welcome to the Empire Club of Canada. For those of you just joining us through either our webcast or podcast, welcome to the meeting. Today we present Councillor and Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson in conversation with Toronto Region Board of Trade, Jan De Silva. For today's, thank you, yes. An ambitious clapper at the head table got everyone going this morning. For today's topic, Vision 2020, building the City of Toronto's prosperity and competitiveness. When we talked about a vision for the city's prosperity, it's essential that we have today's speakers as part of the conversation. That's because the transformative work that they have done to build a new prosperity across the city. When it comes to Toronto, there's so much that goes into economic development, much more than the standard things that we think of, like attracting FDI, transit, housing, and quality of life. They all play a significant role. Doing so while working to make Toronto a global tech hub is even more challenging. Speaking of which, we are at the cusp of Collision, North America's fast-growing tech conference, which is being hosted here in Toronto in just a few days. Councillor, I know you had a thing to do about bringing this to Toronto, and I want to thank you for that. But as we look at how all these different aspects of economic development intersect, perhaps one of the most interesting examples is the King Street pilot. Following the launch of the project, the city created the Food is King promotion to support restaurants along King Street. It featured $15 ritual credit to be used 40 different restaurants along King, which was a big partnership between the city, the Toronto Association of Business Improvement Areas, and Ritual. A great example of the city work together in a creative way with the more established organizations and new players alike. That kind of creativity is especially important in what any observer would describe as an uncertain time for the city. It is no secret that there are new budget challenges that have surfaced in because of the recent provincial announcements around funding to the City of Toronto, and these challenges are of significant magnitude. And so it's also no secret that Councillor Thompson's creativity and nearly a decade of experience as chair of the Economic Development Committee will assist the city in coming up with solutions necessary. When there is no door, Councillor Thompson is known to open a window. It's just like the sound of music. In this time of constant change, a time in need of new solutions, we are all here, one, to understand his vision for the city, two, to listen to the role that the private sector plays in the city's future prosperity, and three, to recognize the work he has done for Toronto in the past. Councillor Thompson is chair of Toronto's Economic Community Development Committee and a member of the Executive Committee, and not to mention Deputy Mayor. Now in his fifth term as councillor, Michael has earned a reputation as one of Toronto's hardest working and most effective political leaders. He created the first ever TTC transit strategy for Scarborough, a strategy designed to significantly expand and enhance public transit services for all Scarborough residents. Through his years on council, Michael's unrelenting drive for public safety in the face of increased gun violence ultimately led to the development of a citywide community safety plan. Michael's commitment to developing Toronto's citywide economy is well known. He maintains a widespread network of business relationships that have helped the city enhance business retention, promote growth, and increase private sector employment. His active engagement in business has helped him speed the launch of new ventures, resolve business and residential conflicts, and gain business participation in a wide range of community building initiatives. He has also attracted billions of dollars in new investments to the city, contributing to a more robust economy and substantial job creation. Michael is a firm believer in the critical value of culture and builder of strong communities. When he first took office, he co-founded the Taste of Lawrence Avenue East Festival, which brings together tens of thousands of people each year. In 2013, he led the city's effort to create a new arts and culture plan that provided a bold new roadmap for roadmap for cultural vitality and strengthened arts spending. Michael was also the first chair of Toronto's Music Advisory Committee and played a key role in efforts to attract international film and television products and studio investments to Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Thompson. No, I want to make sure we get it all right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are we in Toronto or are we in Detroit? Or Buffalo, maybe. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining Jan and I this afternoon, and thank you, Kent. I want to thank our host, the Empire Club, and Kent Emerson, the president, for having me here today. And we have actually had an opportunity to be here for other events. This organization has such a storied history, and I'm delighted to participate and take part in this event today. I would like to thank also our sponsors who have been acknowledged already, because without the sponsors, in fact, this event would not be successful. So may I ask you to give our sponsors a big round of applause, please. And then finally, I would like to thank Mike Williams. He's a tall fellow that's walking around here somewhere. Well, he's sitting right now, I'm sure. He's the general manager for the EDC. I'd also like to thank all the members of our Economic Development Cultural team for their dedication and great work over the years. As Kent has mentioned, this is my 10th year chairing the Economic Development file for the City of Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored actually to have this opportunity to discuss some of the work that we have done at EDC, as well as our vision for an even more prosperous and competitive City of Toronto in the coming years. There's so much that we have to look forward to, so much work that we have to do, and of course we can't do it without you. But before I dive in and Jan and I start to talk, I would like to take a moment to, in fact, share with you our vision for the 2020s. But before we get into that piece of our conversation and so on, I'd like to just take a moment to provide you with a summary of some of our most notable recent accomplishments, because I think that helps to set the table with respect to the conversation that will take place shortly. From 2015 to 2018, we oversaw investment and trade mission that we went overseas in order to bring back approximately $1.5 billion in foreign direct investment for the City of Toronto. We established 27th international relationship to assist Toronto businesses seeking to enter global markets. We engage with over 1,500 companies through the International Trade Training Program in partnership with the World Trade Center. And Lee Smoltz is here, who runs that organization on behalf of the Board of Trade. Thank you, Lee, for what you've done. Big round of applause for Lee. Thank you. In 2017, Toronto became the first Canadian city to be designated as a UNESCO Creative City of Media Arts. The award recognizes our leadership in film, music, digital media, and other forms of cultural expression using technology. We rank amongst the top cities in the world because we recognize the important contribution culture makes to our prosperity. And Claire Hopkinson is here, and I saw Sarah Diamond as well, two of our leaders in this field. So thank you very much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, culture is in fact vital in creating and attracting opportunities for our city. And in fact, a livable city without culture is no city at all. In fact, the opportunity of culture in our city creates an environment in our city where people want to live, work, and play. While, the feeling of uncertainty are rising around the world, many places there's such great uncertainty. Toronto is seen globally as a reliable and a strong economic partner. In fact, it's viewed as one of the safest places to invest, and we're very happy and delighted with that. As Toronto business leader, you probably share my view that Toronto is in fact the best place in the world. Now, through our collective work, the entire world is recognizing that Toronto is not only a cool place, but it's a great place to invest. And so our secret is no longer a secret. And we think that there's great opportunity for investments to come to our city. We have, in fact, accomplished a lot, but we know there is still work to do. We must capitalize on our momentum by continually pushing forward to build a prosperous city for all of our residents. In a city where diversity is our strength, we cannot continue to accept the status quo. For too long, too many of our residents have been overlooked and underrepresented in decision-making levels. Diversity does not automatically translate into equal opportunity. A truly prosperous city is reflective of the race, ethnicity, and experience of all of its residents. Thank you very much for being here and enjoying lunch with us. I look forward to discussing the city's progress and goals with Jan and answering your questions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Jan De Silva is the experienced international business executive with a track record of excelling in on-the-ground leadership roles. As president and CEO of Toronto Region Board of Trade, she is spearheading efforts to make Toronto one of the most competitive and sought-after business regions in the world. Jan, thank you very much for joining us today. And this is going to be a fantastic discussion. We're all looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to the President and CEO of the Board of Trade, Jan De Silva.
Thanks, Kent. Thanks to the Empire Club. Delighted to have this chance to have a conversation with the amazing Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson. As the Deputy Mayor has indicated, we do a lot of work together because economic development, really the magic is when we get strong leaders on the political side, great staff at the city, and a business organization that's bringing some funding momentum to the table as well. So delighted to have this conversation. Now, Kent, you said the title of this event is Vision 2020, Building the City of Toronto's Prosperity and Competitiveness. Actually, knowing this man, the title of this discussion is Getting Things Done. That's what it's all about with the Deputy Mayor. Kent, you talked about something really exciting that's starting on Monday. It's not summer, it's not nice weather, it's this massive tech event called Collision. And the Deputy Mayor has been an active instigator in helping to bring this major event to the city. In fact, at our gala annual dinner in February, Patty Cosgrave, the founder and CEO of this event, was talking about why Toronto. This is an event of unparalleled scale for the city. So, Deputy Mayor, what do you want the visitors to our city to take away from the amazing event that's happening next week?
Well, so first of all, I'm really delighted that Collision is finally here. I was on the stage last year with I was actually going on, and Al Gore was coming off the stage, and he said to me, "Are you trying to take this from New Orleans?" And I said, "Actually, we've got this. It will be in Toronto next year, but Al, you're invited to come."
And he is coming.
Exactly.
Good job.
We have what I believe are some of the most brilliant people in the entire world in this city. They're innovative, they are focused on creativity, and their technology is central thematically to what they're doing. Most people don't realize, for example, that everyone has a cell phone. Your touch screen was developed here in the city of Toronto, not elsewhere. Most people think it's elsewhere. And so what we want to do with respect to this tech conference is to actually utilize this as a showcase, a feature, to show creativity, to show Toronto at its finest, to be able to demonstrate to the influencers who are coming that this is a place to invest. This is a great city for everyone who comes. We welcome 30 to 50,000 new people into the city every year. They come in with a tremendous amount of talent, and we create a space for them to be able to then obviously utilize the talent to actually help others as such. And so we want to demonstrate that this city is a great place for innovation, for technology, for investment. We want to be able to drill that down into then creating sustainable opportunities for jobs so that the residents in Toronto will have opportunities to be able to prosper and to develop their own goals and objectives, whether or not it's, good schools for their kids, which we have many great schools. Yeah. So we want to expose our city to the world, because we are, in fact, not competing against Mississauga or Markham or York Region. We're competing against the world. So when the world comes and see the technological innovation, whether or not it's the DMZ and our institutions, the level of education that exists in our city, they will take notice and they will want to come and invest. And I think it's an important opportunity using collision as a vehicle. We will also generate over 3 years about $147 million. It's an investment that we have made into this particular initiative. We're all going to be the better for it, and the exposure to us is going to be enormous. One final point in this is that we've spoken with Global Affairs. They've indicated this is the largest number of delegations that they're welcoming for a single event. We have 77 delegations from all over the world, some of them from our sister cities, that we have cultivated over the years, creating opportunities, creating connections, so that we can actually see investment that's real in whether it's arts and culture, because we use technology to drive many things, and we use culture to drive all of the things that are business related in our city.
Yeah, and let me just put the economic impact in context. The Collision is the little sister of the world's largest tech event called Web Summit. That's been running in Lisbon for about 8 years. A couple of months ago, the government of Portugal announced that they had just signed a 10-year exclusive with the same organizers of Collision to keep Web Summit in Lisbon. What they did is they offered 100 million euros. That was Lisbon and Portugal's commitment to expand the convention facilities and hotel capacity so that Web Summit can grow. It's over 75,000 delegates that come now. In exchange, Web Summit signed a $3 billion break fee. If they leave anytime within those 10 years, they have to repay the Portuguese government 3 billion euros. That's the economic impact that Portugal has tracked from 8 years of having Web Summit. So there's a ton of economic impact that's going to happen to the city with a major event like that.
That's absolutely correct.
And thanks for your role in that. You were also there earlier last year, I guess, with,
you were there.
In November. I know we had a big Canadian delegation in Lisbon, encouraging people to come to Toronto. Thank you, Air Canada, for the flights. That's great. Now, the Deputy Mayor and I have spent a lot of time in some of the major cities around the world. And I don't know if we've got media in the room. Sometimes our hometown media loves to reflect on how many flights people are on. Well, let me tell you, there's huge economic value of repeat and multiple visits to these major markets to both learn and to cultivate opportunities for the cities. So can you share a little bit about some of the work that's been done and where you're starting to see some payback? Maybe in the film sector, because I know you're just back from LA.
Right. So thank you. We were just in LA, we being the mayor, myself, and Councillor Fletcher. And what we recognize is that, and I led the first mission prior to the mayor being elected under the former mayor, Rob Ford, and I was the only person that was allowed to travel under that regime. And the objective was that we need to promote Toronto. We need to look at how we can expand our reach globally. In the film sector, it's important for us to actually work with the industry. Some 10 years ago, or so, the industry was around 17,000 people working in that industry. Now there's about 30,000 people working in that industry. Our annual trip to Los Angeles is there to talk with the decision makers who are deciding where films are actually made, deciding where to make those particular investments. We also listen to them to hear from them what their concerns are, what do we need to do to attract more investment in the film sector. I'm very pleased to say that this time around we did hear some interesting things from them. We had some really good meetings, and those meetings actually are going to lead, in my view, to probably another 7,000 or 8,000 new jobs. We're talking about potentially a $5 billion investment in central Toronto, north central Toronto. We're talking about another probably about $300 to $400 million investment in Scarborough, of all places. 16 years ago, when I spoke to some of the business owners there about the fact that we should be looking at the film and television sector, building studios in the area, they all thought I was a little bit off. But today, when they're signing their 20-year leases now with some of the companies who are going to be locating there, the jobs are coming. So all of these things are taking place based on our objective to work in collaboration with the film and television sector to ensure that, A, when the films come into our city, we welcome them, because it's not always comfortable for some residents because they complain about the filming and so on taking place. We remind them as to what the benefits are. The opportunity for our city is enormous because we have to compete against Los Angeles, Vancouver, Atlanta, perhaps a little less now based on some of the policies that they've come out with lately. And I think that we can take advantage of those things. But it also provides us as a community with a focus in terms of how those investments will benefit all of us. And a new area that we've started to work on, because it's really important that we have talent. We're starting to work with some companies in identifying the need to ensure that we have the on-ramp opportunity for young people and people in this industry to have opportunity to be trained. And so there's a collaboration with respect to the colleges and other institutions so that we can build on it, because it's really important that while we focus on industry development and so on, we also focus on people development, because they go hand in hand together, because it's about sustainable growth, job opportunities, and at the end of the day, it really is about prosperity. How do people benefit from the time and the investment that we spend on their behalf through these types of engagement in terms of the travel?
Yep. And where we're trying to partner with the city as well is trying to help with that talent definition, where the talent gaps are, so that we can be working with post-secondary. An example related to film, Jonathan Ahi, who I think is moving on to a new role, he was head of our local film sector union. He was telling me we've had to turn away a couple of period films, major productions here, because we didn't have enough period wig stylers. So there's jobs across all components of the film sector that we never even think about, but those are really amazing jobs that can be unlocked. So huge benefit.
And can I just add, one of the things that we discussed when the mayor and I were in Los Angeles just last week, they told us that an area that we in Toronto should be focusing on is film writing. And we were a little bit surprised. And they said, well, the writers determine where the films are actually produced, because they cast just the way they sort of write their script to show specific cities and the sort of the milieu as to what they want. When those writers create those scripts, they usually go to those places where they identify. So we are now going to develop a relationship between Los Angeles and Toronto, and we're going to drill down in terms of creating opportunities for young men and women who want to be in this particular industry, because that's thematically it's really important, whether or not you're talking about technology or whether you're talking about the film sector or any of the other sectors that we actually have in our city. We want to make sure that there are opportunities for people to be engaged and to fill the void, because that skills gap, if you allow a situation where you're not replenishing it, then you're going to fall behind. And because we're not competing with Mississauga and our region, we're competing globally. We're also competing with South Africa and other places like that where film is made. We've got to make sure that all of the elements are connected and it's viable, so that when we look at a greater vision for the city and the growth of our industries and the sectors, that we have all of the different elements weave into the opportunity for greater success for all of us.
And these kind of insights and partnerships don't happen with a single trip. And that if there's one message I can give, and it's certainly something we've been talking about at the city, it's about the repeat visits and strengthening those partnerships and getting more of those insights and encouraging people to come back. So it's really critical that we keep you on an airplane as much as we can.
Well, as much as I can. And in fact, I have to say this, and Air Canada, of course. I have to say this. I mean, traveling isn't as sexy as most people think it is. It's difficult, quite frankly. But here's the thing. In my capacity, I have an obligation to work for all the citizens in this city, to be able to sell Toronto as a place where the talent exists, where diversity exists, where all of the things that you need to be successful are here. And the most important ingredient with respect to that is the very people who are the backbone of our community and our city. Because without the people, All the other things are not as important, quite frankly.
Okay, so the size of city, sorry. The size of city council has reduced, so workload has changed a little bit, and your responsibilities have expanded substantially to include many aspects of community development. So on the surface, fire, ambulance, municipal housing, youth, senior services, recreation are now reporting to your committee. How does that align with your focus on economic growth?
That's a really, really good question. And we asked ourselves that question as well when I sort of was told that these are the portfolio that you're going to be responsible for. If we leave aside the economic development component part for a moment, and we touch on what is community development. What is community development all about? First of all, it's about people. It's about neighborhood. It's about your community. It's all the things that you need. And so if we are going to ensure that there is access to the economic development piece, which is jobs, creativity, and so on, we have to ensure the services are in place. We have to ensure we have healthy communities. We have to ensure, for example, that there is appropriate daycare for mothers and fathers who need that for their children. We have to ensure that we have a healthy community, healthy neighborhood. We have to make sure, for example, that in your neighborhood you have green space, you've got parks, you've got the trails, you've got all of the things that you need to wake up to on a daily basis to ensure that you have the infrastructure, the foundational things to allow you then to focus on creativity, focus on the job that you are responsible for, focus on the opportunity to ensure that wealth can be created. The other point is that if we don't provide all of these types of service through our focus on economic development and community development, what we find is that if we don't, the services, for example, daycare, let's say a mom who wants to go to work, talented person, they have to make a choice whether or not they go to work or take care of their children. Well, the thing is, we don't want them to have to make that choice. We want to provide them with affordable daycare and facilities so that their children can be well taken care of, and then they can take their talent as part of that workforce. So we don't want to see a skills gap that would exist otherwise. So I believe that the co-twinning of those relationships between economic and community development, it is extremely important because we're also focusing on some of the social service issues as well, which is TESS, for example. Toronto Employment and Social Service comes as part of the economic and community development. We're able to have first-hand understanding as what the challenges are for the people in the community, and then to build, if you will, a policy and or program that connects them into the job opportunities and the training. So at the end of the day, as I said, the most important ingredient in terms of what we're trying to address, it's a fundamental issue in terms of how we make people's lives better, how we create the opportunities to respond to the things that they need in order then for them to either go to work or being in the community. How do you create this healthy ecosystem or this relationship so that all that's needed is there when it's needed?
No, exactly. And it's something we are also partnering very closely with you on, because all of our members talk about talent gaps, and there just shouldn't be talent gaps in this marketplace. It's how do we define where are the jobs and how do we help people stream into post-secondary opportunities. I know Lyona is one of the sponsors here today. I saw Mike York is here from Carpenters. I mean, you folks are very actively at the table with us, just looking at the construction sector to say, how many jobs do we need to fill just to get things built here in the city? 146,000 jobs is what we have calculated are going to be required over the next decade in the city to get just the infrastructure project we know has been funded by the federal government, let alone what the provinces just announced. So there's a tremendous wealth of opportunity. It's how do we create that opportunity? I know as we were prepping for this, you've talked a lot about the fact that diversity is our strength, but diversity doesn't mean that everyone's getting the same opportunity. Did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I do, and I sort of touched on it in my remarks. I mean, we have, if you look in this room, amazing men and women of all different background or ethnicity and so on. In Toronto and in Canada, we want to celebrate that. But celebrating in it of itself isn't the end goal. We also want to make sure that people feel and actually are able to experience the ability to make decisions that involves them, that they're part of the input, that creates opportunity and so on. when we create this sense of prosperity, it can't be for some people and not for other people. It has to be for all of us. One of the really interesting thing about our city, and I guess elsewhere in Canada, because we're unique in this way, we care fundamentally about people first. One of the really interesting thing is that we have, settlement opportunities for newcomers and so on. We have asylum seekers. We have all types of people who are coming. The federal government just gave us recently $45 million to help with respect to settlement. They gave us $26 million more. And of course, it's not enough. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done. I say this because it's really important. When I look at a place like Shanghai, for example, there are 24 million people living there. Between 700 to 800,000 new people coming in every year. They're not coming from abroad. They're coming from basically the rural area into the major cities. In Toronto, we have about 35 to 60,000 people, depending on whose numbers you use, coming into our city. The difference for us, we offer a lot of settlement opportunity. We offer an opportunity where people can get connected. We also have opportunities where people can train and retrain and so on. Of course, it's not enough, but we're actually focusing a lot of attention on that. And so we get a diverse workforce. We get different people coming in and talent. And so if we don't have an opportunity where people can feel genuinely that their skills are recognized and are actually wanted to actually make our society better, then we lose that skill component. So it becomes a deficit for us. So as we make decisions, we should make it based on abilities, not making it based on what someone looks like or their ethnic background and so on. And I don't think anybody in this room is guilty of that, but there are some who are guilty of that. And what we're saying is that we want to remind you that talent is extremely important. What we want to do is we want to build on that, and we want to be enriched as a result of the talented men and women who will come from all over the world. I'll just give you one fun example. I met a young woman a couple of weeks ago, and I was at an event in my ward. And I thought that she was someone who had been involved in a variety of things for a long period of time, just the way she was talking and the way she conducted herself. And I went over and introduced myself, and she told me she had only been in Canada for less than a year. And she was involved, she had a job, but what was important that she told me was that she felt that the people who helped her to get settled in to learning a little bit about Canadiana, activities and approach to things here really had her best interest at heart. And what was she doing? She was talking about Toronto. She was doing things to help us, making a contribution. So when we open our minds to the recognition that all people can do great things, we actually become better off, and we eventually become more prosperous, because all of these wonderful people are going to be doing great things that actually helps us all. Because at the end of the day, we are and should be one big family, even if we're welcoming a new addition to the family on a daily basis.
Now, I can keep going with questions, or we've got some time for audience questions. Does anyone in the audience have anything they wanted to ask the Deputy Mayor? Show of hands. I can keep going. Okay, here we go.
Keep talking.
I'm happy to. Okay, now I apologize, it's going to sound a little self-serving, but bear with me. This gentleman and I, we've been traveling all over the world together. We've been working really, really closely with economic development. From activities like our World Trade Center and the Trade Accelerator Program that's helped hundreds of companies activate an export plan, to our market activation program that's actually curating business delegations from particular sectors to go to particular growth markets. And I think there's been so much we've accomplished because you've held us to task around data tracking everything. From your perspective, and not just with an organization like ours or the Empire Club, why is it important that there's collaboration between your committee, the economic development group at the city, and the business community?
Well, I think collaboration is everything in terms of our focus and our attention. Let me just take you back a second. When I first became the chair of the EDC, which was 2010, one of the first things we did was that we reached out to the business community, asked them the question, Do you know about the city's economic development committee? And Mike Williams, I think, had just joined us at that particular point, or maybe a year earlier. And many didn't either know what we did, or some didn't actually care. So what I did was that I reached out to a gentleman by the name of Blake Goldring. He's the chairman and CEO of AGF Financial and others. And I said, look, we would like to sit and talk with you about how we can work together and how we can reach out to a broader group of business leaders in this city to, first of all, ask whether or not we were relevant to them. Secondly, if we weren't, what we needed to do. And thirdly, whether or not we can sit together and bring together a collaborative approach to put a plan together. They agreed. We, Bill Dobson and others, and your predecessor was there, Carol Wilding and so on. We sat together with our staff team, and over many months, we came together with a blueprint. It was called the Prosperity Agenda for the City of Toronto. Subsequent to that, we put together a plan for collaboration. When we bring the expertise from private sector, NGOs, academia, unions, and other organizations, we get the best input from everyone to be able to address some of the fundamental challenges that are facing our city. We never take an approach or look at a situation without having some goals and objectives, recognizing that there's a problem to solve. You can't solve problems by yourself if it is a big citywide issue. The City of Toronto itself, while we are the City of Toronto, we can't solve all of our problems. So it's important to collaborate. We get the best and the brightest. We get the input, everyone. And the interesting thing is what we get, which I believe is extremely important, we get that opportunity where people believe in what we're doing and they want to work with you. They want to actually be part of the solution as opposed to be part of the problem. When you get that energy from people, it's amazing the reach that we can achieve. May I give you an example?
Yes.
So we had identified the aerospace cluster as an area that we believe that Toronto needed to play a greater role in. We've got this great space at Downsview, and so we got together with Centennial College, and Centennial had an aerospace campus in my ward, a very small one, and Utias and others and so on. We talked about a game plan. We put together a committee at the city I co-chaired with another councillor who's no longer a councillor, Maria Ajameri, because it was in her area, the Downsview Air Base. We work with the Department of National Defence, we work with Canada Lands and a variety of others to identify what it is that we were trying to do, which was we wanted to be part of this community. Centennial College also wanted to open a campus on that Downsview lands. And so we didn't have, and all the monies were not in place. So we all worked together, put our heads together, approached the government, Stephen Harper at the time, about funding for this particular campus and to get started. Probably about 3 weeks ago, we opened the new Centennial Aerospace Campus on that location. But what is really interesting is that the young, talented men and women who are in that program and the leadership that this collaboration brought together gives us proof in the example that, in fact, if we put our heads together, there are so many great things that we can do for this city. Look, this city generates 25% of this country's GDP. This is the engine that makes Canada works. If this engine doesn't work because we're not creative, the country doesn't work. That's my view. Because I have another view of the city, which is this is in fact a city-state. And so we have to act accordingly when we compete globally.
Okay, so as you can see, I rightly retitled this event today. It's Vision 2020, Getting Things Done, with this gentleman here. I mean, while the Board of Trade is very focused on trying to make Toronto one of the most competitive and sought-after business regions in the world, and the Deputy Mayor agrees, he wants to take it a step further, and in making it one of the most competitive and sought-after regions, making it an environment that has an opportunity for everyone. So, Deputy Mayor, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience today. A round of applause for Deputy Mayor Michael Thompson.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Kent. Thanks.
I'd like to call on Andrea Merlucci from Air Canada to give the thank you today. Thank you for sponsoring, Andrea.
was going to, good afternoon. I was going to say something about Air Canada, but I think that John and Councillor have already that covered for me, so thank you for doing that. Dear friends, today conversations between two champions and amazing advocates of our city left me personally with the absolute certainty that the future of Toronto is bright, that it is shaped through the capable hands of people like our very own Deputy Mayor and City Councillor Michael Thompson, and Toronto Region and Trade President and CEO John Silva. Thanks to your vision and artwork, you continue to show what effective, relentless leaders of our community do to keep inspiring others by showcasing a proven record of achievements that we can all benefit from. So on behalf of Air Canada, I sincerely thank you for motivating this community and for paving a new path for generations to come. Getting things done is what we need to hear, and more so what we need to see. We are witnesses and at the same time key players of a new era founded on collaboration, just like we heard, competitiveness and aspirations, making Toronto the epicenter of a new cultural, social and economic reality. All this also because of you. Councillor John, thank you.
Thank you so much. One of the greatest compliments to Councillor Thompson would be that 10 years ago there was a different mayor in Toronto, so he's been appointed by a different mayor and survived through 3 administrations. And that's, in this city, that's a big deal. So congratulations on your speech today and all kinds of things in your life. So thank you very much. At the Empire Club, we have a bunch of events coming up. We have Navdeep Bains on Monday. That's going to be, or Tuesday. That's a fantastic event. We have an evening event following that on May 22nd is Canada's Fresh Political Voices. Let's talk about a lot of the political things. We have the National Chief Perry Bellegarde on Wednesday. And today we've launched our 36th and 37th event. We've launched CBC's Power in Politics featuring Vasi Capellos. We'll sort of do an in-person version of Power in Politics here at the Empire Club stage. We also have launched a Women Who Build event on June 10th, and that is on June 13th in the evening, and that's going to be Liuna's sponsoring that. Thank you very much for sponsoring that. It's talking about some of the women in this sector and their challenges and successes, and it'll be a great networking event in the evening. And I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to one final event. I'm going to be leading an event about white supremacy and anti-hate on June 13th. And I challenge many of you to support this event, come to it, to sponsor it. Councillor Thompson sitting at the head table. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in Toronto that we don't like to talk about in terms of some events that have happened to our city in North York and other places. We do need to talk about that a little bit more. And any corporate community members that want to be involved in this event, please approach me. I'd appreciate it. I think these events are harder to do, and that's why sometimes we don't do them, but I'm going to do it. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Meeting adjourned.